The first time my father saw Mrs. Perkins, he barely glanced at her. "She's just a security guard," he muttered, shaking his head as if her uniform made her invisible. I was only 12 then, too young to argue, but old enough to notice the way she carried herself, like someone hiding a secret. Every afternoon, she'd sit at the school gate, her sharp eyes scanning every face. Most kids rushed past her, but I lingered. There was something about the way she smiled, like she knew things nobody else did. One rainy day, my backpack tore, books spilling everywhere. Before I could even crouch down, she was there, gathering them with hands that moved too gracefully for her guards. "You read all these?" she asked, eyeing my worn-out copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. I nodded. She paused and said quietly, "Books like this, they change people, even the ones everyone overlooks." I didn't understand then, but a week later, when the news van swarmed our sleepy town, I'd realized the truth. The woman my father dismissed was about to teach us all a lesson we'd never forget. The rain hadn't stopped for days. It matched the mood of our town, gray, quiet, and predictable. Or so I thought. Mrs. Perkins, the school security guard who'd become my unlikely friend, started acting stranger than usual. She'd pause mid-conversation, her eyes darting to the street outside the school gates as if expecting someone. One afternoon, I caught her scribbling in a small leather notebook, her handwriting quick and frantic. When I asked what she was writing, she snapped it shut so fast I jumped. "Just old habits," she said, forcing a smile. But her knuckles were white around the edges of the notebook. Then the whisper started. Mr. Donovan, the school janitor, claimed he saw Mrs. Perkins talking to a man in a sleek black car, the kind nobody in our town drove. "Looked like they were arguing," he told the other guards, not realizing I was eavesdropping. The next day, I tested the waters. "Do you have family nearby, Mrs. Perkins?" Her face went still. "Not anymore," she said softly. Before I could ask more, the school bell rang and she turned away, adjusting her uniform sleeve. That's when I noticed it. A faded tattoo peeking out from under the fabric. A tiny, intricate bird in flight. The mystery deepened when my best friend, Jake, barged into homeroom one morning, breathless. You'll never guess what I just heard. Mrs. Perkins used to work at some high-security lab upstate. My dad said they fired her for unauthorized research. I scoffed. "Yeah, right. Since when does a lab scientist end up as a school guard?" But Jake insisted. "My dad's friend works in security clearance. He said her name's not even really Perkins." I didn't believe it until I saw the newspaper. It was tucked into my dad's coffee mug one Saturday morning. A grainy photo of a younger Mrs. Perkins standing beside a man in a headline called "Disgraced Biotech So Wanted in Fraud Case." My blood ran cold. The article mentioned a whistleblower who disappeared after exposing illegal drug trials. The CEO had vanished too. And the whistleblower's name? Dr. Evelyn Carter. I stared at the photo, my hands shaking. The woman in the picture wore a lab coat, her hair sleek and professional. But those eyes were unmistakable. Mrs. Perkins' eyes. That's when the pieces clicked. The way she corrected my chemistry homework with pinpoint accuracy. The way she warned me once about trusting the wrong people. She wasn't just hiding a secret. She was hiding a whole life. I needed to talk to her. But when I rushed to school on Monday, her chair was empty. The principal announced she'd resign effective immediately. No explanation. No goodbye. Just an eerie silence where she'd once sat. Then, at 3:17 p.m., my phone buzzed with an unknown number. A single text. "Library. Back booth. Burn this message." My hands trembled as I stared at the text message. The library closed in 45 minutes. Was this a trap? Some part of me knew I should tell an adult, but the burning curiosity overpowered the fear. I shoved my phone deep into my pocket and took the long route to the town library, glancing over my shoulder every few steps. The rain had returned, turning the sidewalks into mirrors that reflected the flickering streetlights. The library was nearly empty when I arrived. Mrs. Wilkins, the elderly librarian, barely looked up from a romance novel as I passed. My sneakers squeaked against the polished floors as I made my way to the back booths, the ones hidden between towering shelves of old reference books that nobody ever read. The air smelled of dust and yellowed paper. She was there. Mrs. Perkins sat hunched in the farthest booth, her security guard uniform replaced with a faded hoodie and jeans. Without the uniform, she looked both younger and more exhausted. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and when she reached for her coffee cup, I noticed her fingers were wrapped in bandages. "You came," she whispered. Her voice sounded raw. like she'd been crying or screaming. Before I could respond, she slid a manila envelope across the table. "Take this. Don't open it here. Don't tell anyone you have it." Her eyes darted toward the front desk. "Especially not your father." A chill ran down my spine. What does my dad have to do with this? The question seemed to pain her. She reached into her pocket and placed a silver USB drive next to the envelope. "3 days from now, if you don't hear from me, take these to Channel 7 News. Not the police, not the school, the news." A loud cough in the fiction section made us both freeze. Mrs. Perkins' hand clamped around my wrist with surprising strength. "They're watching your house," she breathed. "Your father's company. It's not what you think. The clinical trials, the children who got sick." My stomach dropped. Dad was head of research at Biocore Pharmaceuticals. He'd been working late every night for months, coming home with bloodshot eyes and shaking hands. I thought it was stress, but now a shadow moved between the bookshelves. Mrs. Perkins saw it too. In one fluid motion, she stood, pressing the items into my backpack. "Go, now, out the emergency exit." "But what about Dash?" "Your math textbook," she said suddenly, too loud. "Page 147 should help with your homework problem." She gave me a meaningful look as footsteps approached. "Remember, 3 days." I barely had time to react before a deep voice called out, "Evelyn Carter? Fancy finding you here." A tall man in an expensive trench coat stepped into view, his smile not reaching his cold gray eyes. I recognized him instantly from the newspaper photo. The disgraced CEO. Mrs. Perkins went rigid beside me. "Run," she mouthed, and I did. The emergency exit alarm blared as I burst into the alley, rain pelting my face. I didn't stop running until I reached the train tracks on the edge of town, my lungs burning. Only then did I dare open my backpack. The envelope contained photographs, rows of hospital beds with children hooked to IVs. And at the bottom of each image, stamped in red, "Property of Biocore Pharmaceuticals. Confidential." The last photo made by a rise in my throat. It showed my father in a lab coat, standing beside the CO. Both men smiling as they shook hands over a bed where a small girl lay unconscious. The photographs trembled in my hands as I crouched behind the abandoned train car, rain soaking through my hoodie. The faces of those sick children, their hollow cheeks, their fragile bodies wrapped in thin hospital sheets, burned into my mind. And my father, standing there like some proud scientist, like he hadn't ruined lives. I shoved the evidence back into my backpack, my pulse roaring in my ears. The USB drive felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I needed to see what was on it, but not here, not out in the open. My house was being watched. Mrs. Perkins had said. I took the long way home, cutting through backyards and alleyways, my mind racing. Dad was supposed to be at work until late. Mom was visiting her sister in another state. The house would be empty. But if it was being monitored, I slipped in through the basement window I'd accidentally left unlocked last week. The familiar scent of laundry detergent and old books hit me. But tonight, it didn't feel safe. It felt like a lie. Upstairs, I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the hallway clock. Normal sounds. But nothing felt normal anymore. I locked myself in my room and pulled out my laptop, hands shaking as I inserted the USB drive. Password required. Of course. It was encrypted. I tried Mrs. Perkins' name. Nothing. Evelyn Carter. Nothing. Then I remembered what she'd said in the library. Page 147. I grabbed my math textbook, flipped to the page. A single problem was circled in red ink. Solve for x. 12x plus 7 is equal to 151. I worked it out quickly. X equals 12. I typed it in. The drive unlocked. Dozens of files appeared. Spreadsheets, video recording, scanned documents. I clicked the first video. A security camera feed filled the screen. A sterile-looking lab. My father's voice, calm and clinical. Subject 12 is responding well to higher dosage, but the side effects are more severe than projected. Neurological tremors, memory loss. We'll need to adjust before phase 3. Another voice, the CEO's, answered, just keep the parents in the dark. They signed the consent forms. They'll blame the illness, not the treatment. The video cut to a different angle. A little girl, no older than 8, strapped to a hospital bed, her wrists bruised from restraints. She was crying. My stomach twisted. I recognized her. Maddie Thompson, a girl from my school. She'd been out sick for months. Leukemia, everyone said. But this wasn't treatment. This was an experiment. I scrolled further. Financial records, payments to doctors, a list of names, children's names, with check marks next to them. Maddie's was at the top. Then I found the emails. From Dad's work account. To the CO. Subject, trial expansion. We're pushing forward with the next group. 12 new subjects. The school has been cooperative. Nurses will administer the doses during routine vaccinations. No one will suspect. The school, routine vaccinations. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. They were using our school. I barely had time to process it before headlights flashed through my bedroom window. A car pulled into the driveway. Dad was home early. I yanked the USB out, shoved everything under my mattress just as the front door opened. Heavy footsteps moved through the house. "Hey, kiddo," Dad called up the stairs. "You home?" His voice sounded normal, warm, like always, but now I knew better. I took a deep breath, forced my voice steady. "Yeah, just doing homework. Come down for a sec. I want to talk to you about something." There was something in his tone, a tightness. Did he know? Had someone seen me at the library? I closed my laptop, my heart hammering. 3 days, Mrs. Perkins had said. I didn't have 3 days. The wooden stairs creaked under my weight as I descended, each sound magnified in the heavy silence. I'd left a USB drive tucked inside a hollowed-out Harry Potter book on my shelf, the last place my academically minded father would look. My palms were slick with sweat, and I wiped them discreetly on my jeans before entering the kitchen. Dad stood at the counter, still in his lab coat, pouring himself a glass of whiskey, something he only did when extremely stressed. The amber liquid caught the light as he swirled it absently. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, tie loosened, salt and pepper hair sticking up in places like he'd been running his hands through it. When he turned, the dark circles under his eyes matched Mrs. Perkins. "There you are," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We need to talk about your school project." I froze. "My school project?" "The one you've been working on with Mrs. Wilkins at the library." He took a slow sip, watching me over the rim of his glass. "The history assignment." My blood turned to ice. Mrs. Wilkins was the librarian. Had she told him about my meeting? Or worse, had she been watching me from all along? I gripped the edge of the counter to steady myself. "It's just about local town history. Nothing special." Dad set down his glass with a sharp clink. "Then why?" he said slowly. "Did Mr. Donovan see you with Evelyn Carter today?" The use of her real name sent a jolt through me. He knew. He'd always known. The realization made my next words come out harsher than I intended. Maybe because she's the only adult who doesn't lie to me. The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I crossed some invisible line. Dad's face went through a series of rapid changes, surprise, anger, then something that looked almost like fear. He moved suddenly, blocking the kitchen doorway. "What exactly did she tell you?" The normally comforting kitchen now felt like a cage. The smell of Mom's lavender air freshener mixed nauseatingly with the whiskey. I took an involuntary step back. "Enough to know what you've been doing at BioCore. Those kids in the hospital, Maddie Thompson from my class. You're killing them." Dad's face went deathly pale. "You don't understand, Dash." "I understand perfectly." My voice cracked. "You're experimenting on sick kids and covering it up." A strange, almost pained expression crossed his face. He reached into his pocket, and for one terrifying second, I thought he might pull out a weapon. Instead, it was his phone. He swiped open an album and turned the screen toward me. "Look." The photo showed Dad in scrubs, standing beside a hospital bed where a young boy lay connected to monitors. But unlike the other images, Dad wasn't smiling. He looked exhausted, devastated. And the boy, my breath caught. The boy was me. This was 5 years ago. Dad said quietly, "When you had that bad flu, that put you in the hospital for a month. The truth? It was a trial drug that saved your life. The same one we're trying to perfect now." The room spun. I grabbed the counter again. That's impossible." "Is it?" Dad scrolled to another photo, medical charts with my name. "You were patient 0, son. The treatment worked for you, but with others..." His voice broke. "The side effects were worse than we predicted. The company wanted to bury the failures, but Evelyn, Mrs. Perkins, she stole the data to go public." My mind reeled. Mrs. Perkins wasn't just a whistleblower. She'd been part of the trials. And I was the reason they existed at all. Dad reached for me, but I jerked away. That doesn't excuse what you're doing. Those kids, Dash, are dying anyway, he shouted, then immediately looked regretful. He lowered his voice. Their parents consented to experimental treatments because they had no other options. We're trying to fix the formula, but the board wants results faster than we can safely deliver them. A car door slammed outside. Dad's head snapped toward the window. When he turned back, his expression was urgent. Listen carefully. The CEO knows Evelyn contacted you. They're coming for that USB drive. You need to give it to me right now. The shift was so sudden it took me a second to process. So you can destroy it? So I can protect you. His voice dropped to a whisper. There are files on there that even Evelyn doesn't understand. Names of board members, politicians involved. These people will kill to keep this quiet. Headlights swept across the kitchen walls. 2 black SUVs had pulled up our driveway. Dad grabbed my shoulders. There's no time. The files, were they? Something in his desperation made me hesitate. Was this another lie? Or was my father, for the first time, actually telling the truth? The doorbell rang. The doorbell's chime echoed through the house like a gunshot. Dad's grip on my shoulders tightened momentarily before he released me and moved swiftly to the kitchen window, peering through the blinds with the caution of a hunted man. The veins in his neck stood out as he whispered, "Too late. They're here." His eyes darted around the room before locking onto mine with an intensity I'd never seen before. "Listen to me carefully. There's a spare key to the old boathouse taped behind the water heater. Take the USB there and wait until morning. Don't trust anyone from BioCore, not even Dash." 3 sharp raps on the front door cut him off. A smooth, familiar voice called out, "Richard, we know you're home. Let's talk like civilized people." It was the CEO, the same voice I'd heard on the USB recording. Dad's hands shook as he pulled his phone from his pocket and typed frantically, "I'm sending you an encrypted contact, journalist at Channel 7. If anything happens..." He couldn't finish the sentence. The knocking turned to pounding. "Richard, don't make this difficult. We just want to talk to your son about Evelyn's little gift." The casual menace in those words sent ice through my veins. Dad shoved his phone into my hands just as it splintered near the doorframe. He pushed me toward the basement stairs. "Go, now." I stumbled down the steps as the front door burst open. Heavy footsteps ended above me, followed by Dad's raised voice. "You have no right to break into my home." "Where is he, Richard?" The CEO's voice remained calm, which somehow made it worse. "We know he has the files. Did you really think we wouldn't be monitoring your house after Evelyn contacted him?" I crouched in the dark basement, heart hammering against my ribs, as more voices joined the confrontation upstairs, at least 3 other men. Drawers slammed open in the kitchen. Furniture scraped across the floor. They were searching the house. Dad's voice turned desperate. "He doesn't know anything. Evelyn just gave him some story about Dash." A sickening thud cut him off. Something heavy hit the floor. My body tends to run upstairs, but then I heard Dad groan in pain. "You'll never get away with this," he gasped. "The FDA audit." The CEO's laugh was chilling. "The audit you conveniently failed to mention was scheduled for next week? Oh, we know all about that. Just like we know Evelyn made copies." A pause. "Find the boy." Footsteps spread through the upstairs. I backed toward the basement window I'd used earlier, but froze when a new voice crackled for what sounded like a radio. "Perimeter secure. No sign of him leaving the property." Trapped. My eyes adjusted to the dim light, filtering through the small basement windows. The washer and dryer, the old camping gear, the water heater with the boathouse key behind it. And then I remembered the crawl space. As boots pounded down the basement stairs, I slipped behind the water heater and peeled the key from its hiding place, then dropped to my belly and wriggled into the narrow crawl space entrance Dad had shown me when we'd had tornado drills. Dust and insulation fibers tickled my nose as I pulled the panel closed just as the lights flicked on. "Check everywhere," a gruff voice ordered. "Closets, cabinets, anywhere a kid could hide." Something metallic clinked against the concrete floor near the washer. Dad's keys? Then a discovery that turned my blood to ice. Found a laptop bag, school books, and this. The unmistakable sound of a hollow book being opened. Damn, it's empty. They knew about the USB. The search became more frantic. Boxes toppled. Someone kicked the water heater in frustration. Then a phone rang. "Yeah." A pause. "You're sure?" The man's voice changed. "Boss says the kid's phone just pinged at the library. He must have run there. But we just came from Dash. Move out and bring the father. He's coming with us. The basement door slammed. Car engines roared to life outside. But I stayed frozen in the crawl space, trying to understand. My phone was in my pocket, silent, but definitely not at the library. Then it vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Stay put. Help coming. EC. Mrs. Perkins. Evelyn Carter. She was alive. And somehow, she'd hacked my phone to send them on a wild goose chase. But as the house fell silent above me, a new horrifying realization sank in. They'd taken Dad. And the only person who might know how to save him was the woman they'd been hunting all along. The crawlspace air was thick with dust and the metallic tang of old pipes as I waited, my muscles screaming from staying frozen in the cramped darkness. Only when the last car engine faded into the distance did I dare push open the panel and crawl out, my clothes covered in cobwebs and insulation. The basement was destroyed, boxes overturned, Dad's work files scattered across the floor. His keys glinted near the washing machine just as I'd heard. I snatched them up, my fingers brushing against something else. A small silver thumb drive tucked beneath the detergent tray. A second USB. Had Dad hidden it there during the struggle? Or had it fallen from one of the men's pockets? Either way, I wasn't about to leave behind. I crept upstairs, wincing at every creak. The kitchen looked like a war zone. Chairs overturned, Dad's whiskey glass shattered on the tile. His phone lay in pieces near the doorway, screen cracked. They'd made sure he couldn't be tracked. The boathouse. That's where he'd told me to go. I slipped out the back door, keeping low as I cut through the neighbor's yard. The night air was thick with the smell of rain and pine. Every shadow seemed to move. Every distant car engine made my pulse spike. The old Harper boathouse sat at the edge of Lake Merrick, half rotted and forgotten. We hadn't used it in years. Not since Dad sold our boat after Mom got sick. The key fit smoothly into the rusted lock. Inside, the air was damp, the wooden floors groaning underfoot. Moonlight filtered through grimy windows, illuminating the fishing gear and life jackets still hanging on the walls. I pulled out both USB drives, the one from Mrs. Perkins and the one I just found. My laptop was still in my backpack. Thank God. I booted it up, my fingers trembling as I inserted the new drive first. It unlocked without a password. A video file autoplayed. The footage was shaky, dark, security camera footage from what looked like a hospital hallway. A date stamp in the corner read, 3 days ago. A figure in a doctor's coat moved quickly, glancing over their shoulder before entering a room. The camera angle switched, this one inside the room. Dad. He wasn't wearing his usual lab coat. He wore scrubs, his face drawn with exhaustion as he approached a hospital bed. The patient was a girl, Maddie Thompson, her once vibrant red hair now thin and patchy from treatment. But she was awake, and she was terrified. Please, she begged, her voice weak. I want to go home. Dad's face twisted with guilt. I know, Maddie. I'm so sorry. He reached into his coat and pulled out a syringe, but not the usual medication. This one had a bright blue cap. This will reverse some of the damage. It's not a cure, but it'll stop the seizures. Maddie's mother stepped into frame, tears streaming down her face. You're sure it's safe? No, Dad admitted quietly, but it's the only chance she has. BioCorp won't approve it. They've already written off this trial group. The footage cut. The next file was a spreadsheet, names of children, their conditions, and a column labeled termination schedule. My stomach lurched. They weren't just covering up failed trials. They were euthanizing the test subjects to hide the side effects. A noise outside made me slam the laptop shut. Footsteps. Someone was on the dock. I grabbed a rusted fishing knife from the wall, my breath coming in short gasps. The doorknob turned. It's me, a familiar voice whispered. The door opened. Mrs. Perkins stood there, blood dripping from a cut above her eyebrow, her clothes torn. And beside her, Maddie Thompson, alive, pale as a ghost and leaning heavily on a crutch, but alive. We don't have much time, Mrs. Perkins said, her eyes locking onto the USB drives in my hands. They're coming for all of us now. The boathouse air turned to ice as Maddie collapsed onto a dusty chair, her breath ragged. Up close, the damage was worse than I'd imagined. Her wrists were ringed with bruises from IVs. Her collarbone jutted sharply beneath her hospital gown. Mrs. Perkins bolted the door behind them, then pressed a torn piece of fabric to her bleeding forehead. They're tracking us through the trial implants, she gasped, nodding to Maddie's upper arm, where a small, angry red scar marked the spot. Every patient has one. GPS and vital monitors. That's how they've been finding us. I stared at the USB drives in my hands, the pieces clicking together. That's why they're killing them, not just to hide the side effects, to deactivate the trackers. Mrs. Perkins gave a grim nod. The board panicked when the FDA audit was announced. They couldn't risk anyone discovering the implants weren't FDA approved. She moved to the grimy window, peering out at the lake. Your father was the only one who refused to comply. He's been smuggling kids out for weeks. Maddie coughed weakly. Dr. Harper, he gave me the counteragent. Said it would buy me time. Her hand trembled as she pulled a folded note from her gown pocket. For you. The note was in Dad's handwriting. Channel 7 has a van waiting at mile marker 17. Go now. Don't trust the police. Sheriff Kowalski is on BioCorps' payroll. A loud crack echoed outside, a branch snapping. Mrs. Perkins yanked me away from the window just as headlights swept across the boathouse walls. They're here. The USB, the evidence. I had to get it to Channel 7. But Maddie could barely walk, and Mrs. Perkins was bleeding badly. Outside, car door slammed. Voices shouted orders. Then, a sound that didn't fit. A helicopter. It thundered overhead, its spotlight cutting through the trees. Not police, not BioCorps. The side of the chopper read, FDA emergency response. Mrs. Perkins' eyes widened. Your father, he must have triggered an early audit. The men outside scrambled, their radios crackling with panicked voices. Fall back, fall back. But it wasn't over. The CEO's voice rose above the chaos, screaming, burn it down, destroy everything. Smoke curled under the door. They'd set the boathouse on fire. Maddie sobbed as flames licked up the walls. Mrs. Perkins grabbed a life jacket and smashed a window with a fishing rod. Lake's our only way out. The heat was unbearable now. I shoved the USBs into a waterproof pouch and strapped it to my wrist. As we helped Maddie toward the window, the door burst open, not from the fire, but from a boot kick. The CEO stood there, a gun in one hand, a gasket in the other. His perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit smudged with ash. Give me the drives, he panted, and I'll let the girl live. Mrs. Perkins stepped in front of Maddie. You'll kill us either way. A gunshot rang out, but it didn't come from the CEO. Dad stood in the doorway behind him, a police revolver in hand. The CEO crumpled, clutching his leg. Dad's clothes were torn, his face streaked with soot and blood. Go, he roared. The FDA team's on the east shore. The fire reached the fishing gear. Explosive pops of old flares sent sparks flying. We half-dragged, half-carried Maddie to the window as the CEO writhed on the floor, still screaming threats. The lake water was freezing when we hit it. The boathouse collapsed in an inferno behind us as we kicked toward the flashing FDA lights in the distance. But the USB drives were safe. And somewhere in the chaos, I heard Dad shouting, not in pain, not in fear, but in victory, as the sheriff's cuffs clicked around the CEO's wrists. The freezing lake water shocked my system as we kicked toward the flashing FDA lights. Maddie clinging to my back while Mrs. Perkins swam ahead, her injured arm leaving a faint trail of blood in the dark water. Behind us, the boathouse was a roaring pyre, orange flames reflecting off the lake surface. Gunshots echoed, two more than silence. I didn't know if Dad had been hit, if the CEO was dead, or the sheriff had turned his weapon on the FDA agents. All I knew was the waterproof pouch containing the USBs was still securely strapped to my wrist, and Maddie's weak grip around my neck was slipping. Hold on, I gasped, adjusting our weight, just a little further. But the shore wasn't getting closer. If anything, the current seemed to be pulling us sideways, toward the dense reeds where the FDA lights weren't visible anymore. Mrs. Perkins noticed and doubled back, her face pale with pain. They're hurting us, she panted. The sheriff's men must be blocking the FDA team. A new sound cut through the night, a speedboat engine coming fast. We froze, treading water as its spotlight swept the lake. For one heart-stopping moment. The beam illuminated three figures aboard. Two armed men in tactical gear flanking a woman in a white lab coat. Dr. Lillian Voss, BioCorps' head of research. Dad's former mentor. The architect of the implant program. Mrs. Perkins made a strangled noise. She's supposed to be in custody. The boat changed course, aiming straight for us. We dove. The underwater world was murky and silent, the boat's hull passing overhead like a shark. My lungs burned as I pulled Maddie deeper, her hospital gown billowing around her. When we surfaced, gulping air, the boat was circling back, but But now there were new voices shouting from the shore. The FDA team had broken through. Dr. Voss barked an order, and a speedboat peeled away into the night, abandoning the CEO and sheriff to their fate. We reached the shore just as FDA medics rushed forward with stretchers. A woman with a Channel 7 press badge broke through the cordon, microphone in hand. "We received an anonymous tip about human experimentation," she said, eyeing the USB pouch still on my wrist. "Are those the files?" Before I could answer, a scream cut through the chaos. One of the medics was backing away from Maddie's stretcher in horror. The girl's arm, where the implant scar was, had begun glowing a faint blue beneath her skin. Mrs. Perkins staggered to her feet. No, it's too soon." "What's happening?" I demanded. "The counteragent your father gave her. It was experimental, meant to neutralize the implant's tracking chip, but..." She grabbed the medic's arm. "You have to sedate her now, if it activates fully." Maddie's back arched violently as a glow spread to her veins, lighting them up like circuits. The Channel 7 camera swung toward her, broadcasting live to the world the horrifying truth of BioCore's experiments. And then the implant exploded, not with fire, but with data. Maddie's body convulsed as a holographic projection erupted from her arm, a massive, rotating 3D model of a human brain, covered in blinking nodes. A mechanical voice announced, "Subject 12 neural upload complete. Finalizing termination protocol." The FDA agents and reporters stood frozen, staring at the display. This wasn't just medical malpractice. This was something far worse. Mrs. Perkins looked at me, her face ashen. They weren't just testing drugs. They were mapping consciousness. Your father never knew. None of US did until it was too late. The hologram shifted, showing a list of names, hundreds, each with percentage beside it. Maddie's read. Upload, 97% complete. At the bottom of the list, one name made my blood run cold. Mine. The holographic projection from Maddie's arm flickered, like a dying star, as a mechanical voice repeated its chilling message. Termination protocol engaged. FDA agents scrambled to set up containment while the Channel 7 camera continued rolling, broadcasting the nightmare live to the world. Maddie's body had gone rigid, her eyes wide open but seeing nothing. Her pupils dilated so completely they looked like black holes swallowing the blue light radiating from her veins. Mrs. Perkins lunged forward, pressing her hands against Maddie's glowing arm. "Listen to me," she shouted over the rising chaos. "Your name is Maddie Thompson. You're 12 years old. You love strawberry ice cream, and your golden retriever, Max. Fight the upload." For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then a single tear rolled down Maddie's cheek. The hologram stuttered. The mechanical voice glitched. "Subject resistance detected." One of the FDA scientists grabbed my shoulder. "How long have you had your implant?" he demanded, staring at the faint scar on my upper arm, the one I'd gotten during my flu hospitalization years ago. Before I could answer, the hologram changed again, displaying a new set of files. Project Prometheus. Phase 2 activation criteria. The document listed names, dates, and a countdown timer next to each. Mine read, 12 hours, 7 minutes remaining. Mrs. Perkins went deathly pale. "They're not just mapping consciousness. They're replacing it." She turned to me, her voice urgent. "Your father's counteragent. It wasn't just for the tracking function. It was meant to disrupt the neural rewrite. That's why Dr. Voss wants you so badly. You're the only Subject Zero who survived the first trial." The Channel 7 reporter pushed forward, shoving her microphone between us. "Are you saying BioCore's erasing people's minds?" Before anyone could answer, Maddie suddenly sat upright, but her voice wasn't hers anymore. It came out distorted, mechanized. "Prometheus will ascend. The flawed must be upgraded." Then, as quickly as it started, the glow faded. Maddie collapsed back onto the stretcher, unconscious but breathing. The hologram winked out. An FDA agent grabbed my arm. "We need to get you to a secure facility. If that countdown is real..." A gunshot rang out. The agent dropped, clutching his leg. Through the smoke and flashing lights, I saw Dad limping toward us, his lab coat torn and bloody. Behind him, the sheriff lay handcuffed to a tree, the CEO unconscious at his feet. Dad's eyes locked onto the countdown still hovering in the air next to my name, his face twisted in horror. "No, the trigger date wasn't supposed to be until..." He staggered forward, gripping my shoulders. "The implant in your arm, it's not the same as the others. Yours is a prototype. Voss must have activated phase 2 early." Mrs. Perkins stepped between us. "What aren't you telling us, Richard?" Dad's hand shook. "The counteragent I gave Maddie, it was based on your DNA." He looked at me, tears in his eyes. "When you were sick, Voss used your neural patterns as the baseline for the entire program. You're not just Subject Zero. Your mind is a template they're using to overwrite the others." The world seemed to tilt. My thoughts, my memories, BioCore was mass-producing them, erasing real people to install copies of me. A new sound cut through the night. Rotors. Not the FDA helicopter this time. A sleek, unmarked black chopper descended toward the lake, its side emblazoned with a familiar logo. BioCore Emergency Response. Dr. Voss leaned out from the open door, her white coat flapping in the wind. Even from a distance, I could see the cold smile on her face. She wasn't here to silence us. She was here to collect her prize. Dad shoved something into my hands. A second vial of the blue counteragent. Run. Now, the original formula is at our old cabin. Find it before the countdown ends. Mrs. Perkins grabbed Maddie's stretcher. "We'll hold them off. Go." As the chopper's searchlight swept over us, I turned and sprinted into the woods. Toward the cabin, toward the truth, toward the only chance of stopping what BioCore had started. But with every step, I could feel the implant in my arm growing warmer. And in my mind, a strange new thought echoed. The flawed must be upgraded. The forest swallowed me whole as I crashed through the undergrowth, branches whipping at my face like grasping fingers. Every few steps, I'd glance at the countdown projection from my implant, now hovering in the corner of my vision like some cruel heads-up display. 11 hours, 42 minutes, and 17 seconds. 11 hours, 42 minutes, and 16 seconds. The numbers ticked down relentlessly, synced to my pulse. The old Harper family cabin was 3 miles deep in the state park, a place we hadn't visited since before Mom's death. Would the counteragent even still be there? Or was Dad sending me on a hopeless chase while he and Mrs. Perkins fought a losing battle against BioCore? The implant in my arm burned hotter with each passing minute. The pain sharp enough to make me stumble. When I wiped sweat from my forehead, my fingers came away smeared with something oily and blue, the same shade as the veins now visible beneath my skin. The flawed must be upgraded. That mechanical voice whispered in my mind, louder this time. I shook my head violently, focusing on the memory of Dad's face as he handed me the vial. The original formula is at the cabin. Dawn was breaking when I reached the clearing. The cabin looked abandoned, its wooden siding gray with age, the porch sagging under years of neglect. But the front door, that was wrong. It was slightly ajar. Someone had been here recently. I approached slowly, every sense screaming danger. The floorboards creaked as I stepped inside, the musty air thick with the scent of pine and something sharper. Chemicals. The main room was empty except for an overturned chair and a hospital floor stand. Its bag hung empty, tubing cut cleanly. Then I saw it. The far wall had been torn open, the drywall shredded to reveal a hidden metal panel with a biometric scanner. A single word was stenciled across it in fading red letters. Prometheus. My implant pulsed violently, projecting a new message across my vision. Primary access detected. Initiating verification. Before I could react, a laser scanned my retina. The panel hissed open, revealing a small, sterile lab, completely at odds with the decaying cabin. A workstation with monitors, a refrigeration unit humming quietly, and a centrifuge still spinning, as if someone had left in a hurry. On the central monitor, a video file auto-played. Dad appeared on screen, younger by at least a decade, wearing a BioCore lab coat. Behind him, a much younger Dr. Voss adjusted something off-camera. Log entry 147. Subject 0, my son, has responded remarkably well to the neural stabilization serum. Dad said, his voice tight with some emotion I couldn't identify. But Lillian insists we proceed to phase 2 immediately. I've hidden the original formula here as a safeguard. If anything happens... He glanced off-screen, then lowered his voice. The counteragent isn't just a treatment. It's a kill switch for the entire Prometheus network. The video cut abruptly to static. I stumbled to the refrigeration unit, my implant now burning so badly I could barely move my arm. Inside were rows of vials filled with familiar blue liquid. The same substance Dad had given Maddie. The label read, Neural Override Inhibitor, Prototype 1A. As I reached for a vial, the cabin door slammed open behind me. I always wondered where Richard hid his little rebellion. Dr. Voss stepped inside, flanked by 2 armed guards. Her white coat was pristine, her silver hair perfectly coiled, a stark contrast to the chaos she created. She smiled at the lab setup. Clever, using his own childhood home. I never thought to check here. One of the guards raised his weapon. Dr. Voss waved him off. No need for that. His implant will finish the job soon enough. She moved closer, studying my glowing veins with clinical interest. 11 hours and counting. Do you feel it yet? The thoughts that aren't yours? The memories you never made. I backed toward the workstation, my hand closing around a vial. What did you do to me? Nothing compared to what you'll do for humanity, she said softly. Your neural patterns are perfect, resistant to disease, adaptable to trauma. We're not erasing minds, child. We're saving them, starting with the sick, the weak, and eventually everyone. The monitor behind me flickered to life suddenly, displaying a global map dotted with thousands of red markers. Activation progress. 27% complete. Dr. Voss's smile widened. Right on schedule. The broadcast from Little Maddie triggered the network. By this time tomorrow, every Phase 2 implant will be operational. She tilted her head. You should be proud. Your mind will cure cancer patients, heal trauma victims, erase mental illness. By killing the people who have them. I shouted. She sighed, as if explaining to a slow child. The weak must make way for the strong. That's evolution. My fingers tightened around the vial. Dad's words echoed in my head. It's a kill switch for the entire network. But as I looked at the monitor, at the thousands of lights representing thousands of lives already being overwritten, a terrible new thought occurred to me. What if the counteragent wasn't meant to save me? What if I was never supposed to survive this? The vial of counteragent grew slippery in my sweaty palm as Dr. Voss took another step closer, her polished shoes clicking against the hidden lab's sterile floor. The armed guards flanking her hadn't moved, but their fingers hovered near their triggers. Not to shoot me, I realized, but to stop me from destroying their precious research if I tried. The monitor behind me continued updating in real time. Activation progress. 29% complete. Each percentage point representing hundreds more people losing themselves to my copied consciousness. My head throbbed with foreign memories that weren't mine. A little girl's birthday party in Tokyo, an old man fishing in Norway, a teenager crying over a failed exam in Buenos Aires, all leaking through the implant network like poison seeping into my mind. You're beginning to understand, Dr. Voss murmured, watching my face with unsettling fascination. The connection goes both ways. As they become you, you become them. She gestured to the glowing blue veins now creeping up my neck. The neural degradation is accelerating beautifully. The pain was beyond anything I'd ever felt, like my skull was splitting open to make room for all these invading lives. Through the haze, I focused on Dad's words in the video. The counteragent is a kill switch to the entire network. But what he hadn't said, what he couldn't say, was a cost. Dr. Voss seemed to read my thoughts. Oh, Richard never told you? Her laugh was soft, almost pitying. The original formula doesn't just disable the implants. It triggers cascading neural apoptosis in every subject connected to the network. She tilted her head, including Subject 0. The truth hit like a physical blow. The counteragent wasn't a cure, it was a suicide pill. A final solution to stop Prometheus by burning out every infected mind, mine included. The monitor flickered suddenly, the global map replaced by a live news feed. The Channel 7 reporter stood outside our burning boathouse, but now the screen split to show hospitals across the country. Patients convulsing as their implants activated, doctors scrambling as monitors flatlined. The cheer read, Biocore implants causing mass casualties. Dr. Voss's smile faltered for the first time. That shouldn't be happening yet. She moved to the workstation, typing furiously. The system responded with a blood-red error message. Network instability detected. Subject 12 anomaly. Maddie. Somehow, she was fighting the upload from inside the system, disrupting the synchronization. The realization gave me a desperate idea. If the connection truly went both ways, maybe I could reach her. I focused on the invading memories, searching for any trace of Maddie's consciousness in the flood. There, a flicker of red hair, the scent of strawberry ice cream, the sound of a dog barking. I grabbed onto those fragments with everything I had, pouring my own memories into the connection. Reading together at the school library, her laugh when I tripped in gym class, the way she'd always shared her lunch when I forgot mine. The implant in my arm screamed in protest, the pain so intense I collapsed against the workstation. Alarms blared from the monitors as the activation percentage began dropping. 28%, 27%. Dr. Voss whirled on me, her composure shattered. What are you doing? I couldn't answer. The neural link was consuming me, my vision tunneling as Maddie's consciousness surged forward like a lifeline. Through her eyes, I saw the FDA facility. Doctors working frantically to stabilize her body while the holographic display above her flickered between bio-course programming and our shared memories. Then something extraordinary happened. One by one, other names on the global map began blinking from red to blue. Chicago, Seattle, Miami. As Maddie and I fought the network, others started waking up, rejecting the overwrite. The monitor flashed a new warning. Collective resistance detected. Network collapse imminent. Dr. Voss screamed at the guards, "Sedate him! Now!" But it was too late. The implant's countdown, which had been steadily ticking toward 0, suddenly glitched, spinning backward before freezing on. Midnight. Termination protocol overridden. The lab lights exploded in a shower of sparks as every monitor went black. Then, from the ruined speakers, a single phrase echoed in hundreds of voices. Some young, some old, speaking in unison to the shattered remains of the network. "We remember." Dr. Voss staggered back, her face a mask of horrified realization. The guards lowered their weapons, eyes wide, because standing in the cabin doorway, silhouetted by the rising sun, were figures no one expected to see. Dad, bleeding but alive. Mrs. Perkins, supporting a weak but conscious Maddie. And behind them, Sheriff Kowalski, his bio-core-shoot pistol now aimed at Dr. Voss. "Game over," Lillian, Dad rasped. "The world knows everything." But as I struggled to stay conscious, one terrible question remained. The network was broken, but the implants were still in thousands of people, and mine was still counting down. The cabin air hummed with residual energy as the neural network collapsed, the overhead lights flickering like dying stars. My body convulsed against the workstation, every nerve alight with the aftershocks of severing the connection that had burrowed into my very DNA. The implant in my arm still pulsed, but no longer with a countdown. Now it was something else, something erratic, like a damaged engine sputtering its last rotations. Across the room, Dr. Voss had been handcuffed by Sheriff Kowalski, her pristine white coat smudged with dirt and what might have been blood. But her eyes, those ice-chip eyes, still burned with defiance as she hissed at Dad. "You think this is over? The technology exists, Richard. You can't uninvent progress." Maddie limped forward, leaning heavily on Mrs. Perkins. The glow in her veins had faded to a faint shimmer, but her pupils were still dilated too wide, giving her an eerie, far-seeing look. When she spoke, her voice carried an unsettling harmonic, fragment of other voices layered beneath her own. "The network isn't dead," she said, staring at my twitching arm. "It's rearranging." Before anyone could react, the workstation monitors blared back to life, flooding the cabin with a hellish blue light. The global map reappeared, but now the red activation markers were moving, clustering around major cities before forming a new, pulsing pattern. A perfect Fibonacci spiral centered on our hometown. Mrs. Perkins sucked in a sharp breath. "It's not random. The implants, they're forming a neural lattice." Dad rushed to the monitors, his fingers flying over the keyboard. The system responded with a cascade of error messages before resolving into a single, horrifying image. A 3D model of the Earth, overlaid with glowing neural pathways that mirror the human brain structure. And at the center, our town flashed a label, Hippocampus Node. Dr. Voss began to laugh, a low, guttural sound. "You see now, don't you? Prometheus was never about saving individuals." She twisted in the sheriff's grip, her voice rising with manic triumph. "We were building a collective consciousness, a backup drive for the human race. And your son," she jerked her chin at me, "is the architect." The implant in my arm screamed as new data flooded my synapses, not memories this time, but blueprints. Towering server farms hidden beneath biocore facilities. Satellite arrays tuned to neural frequencies. A master program scheduled to activate in 6 hours, 13 minutes. Maddie suddenly gasped, clutching her head. "They're coming!" Outside, the forest erupted with the sound of snapping branches and heavy footfalls. Not just the 2 guards who had accompanied Dr. Voss. Dozens, maybe hundreds of footsteps. Because the implants weren't just in hospital patients. They were in BioCorp employees. And now, they were all marching toward us. The approaching footsteps sounded less like people and more like a single, massive organism, a wave of synchronized movement crashing through the forest. Through the cabin's grimy windows, we saw flashes of blue light between the trees, pulsing in perfect unison like fireflies communicating in some alien language. Maddie clutched her temples, her breath coming in short gasps as she fought to maintain control over whatever connection still tethered her to the crumbling network. "They're not themselves anymore," she whispered. "The implants have rewritten their priorities." Dad slammed the cabin's rusted metal shutters closed, plunging us into near darkness broken only by the erratic glow of the monitors. The global neural lattice continued evolving on-screen, the Fibonacci spiral tightening around our location with mathematical precision. Sheriff Kowalski tightened his grip on Dr. Voss's cuffed wrists. "Call them off, Lillian. This has gone too far." Dr. Voss's laugh was chillingly calm. "Don't you understand? I can't stop it any more than you can stop your own heartbeat. The network has reached critical mass. It's making its own decisions now." As if to prove her point, the workstation monitors suddenly switched to a live security feed from BioCore's headquarters. Rows of lab technicians stood motionless in the halls, their eyes open but unseeing, blue veins pulsing beneath their skin. A mechanical voice echoed through facility's PA system. "Preparation for Transcendence phase underway. Hippocampus node acquisition in T-5 hours, 42 minutes. Mrs. Perkins grabbed my searing arm, her fingers tracing the glowing implant. "We've been thinking about this all wrong. It's not just copying your mind. It's using your neural architecture as a template to rebuild humanity's collective consciousness." She turned to Dad, her face ashen. "Richard, his childhood illness. That wasn't natural, was it?" Dad's silence was answer enough. Outside, the first hands began pounding on the cabin walls. Not violent, not angry, methodical, like surgeons preparing to operate. Maddie suddenly convulsed, her back arching as a burst of holographic data erupted from her implant. The projection showed a familiar scene, my childhood bedroom during the flu that nearly killed me. But now, with the network's data overlaying the memory, I could see what my younger self hadn't. The 4-bag labeled neural stabilization serum, prototype Omega, the BioCorp logo on the doctor's clipboard, the way Dad had argued with Dr. Voss in hushed tones just outside the door. I was never sick. I was the first test subject. The realization should have shattered me. Instead, something inside my mind clicked. A door I didn't know existed swinging open. The pain in my arm vanished as the implant's final firewall crumbled, granting me full access to the system that built around my consciousness. For one terrifying, exhilarating moment, I could feel all of them. Every implanted mind flickering across the global network like stars in some vast neural galaxy. And at the center of that galaxy, pulsing with malignant intelligence, I sensed the true architect of Prometheus. Not Dr. Voss, not even BioCore, but something far older, something that had been waiting inside the human brain all along. The moment my consciousness brushed against that ancient presence in the network, the cabin dissolved around me. 1 second I was staring at Maddie's holographic projection of my childhood betrayal. The next I was tumbling through a vortex of fractured memories that weren't mine. Pyramids being built under blood-red skies, medieval scholars whispering over cadavers that twitched with unnatural life, a 19th century laboratory where a man who looked like a younger Dr. Voss injected something glowing into a patient's spine. The visions came faster. World War II bunkers where Nazi scientists carved alien symbols into living flesh. Cold War black sites where prisoners screamed in languages they'd never learned. Then the voice. Not mechanical like the implant alerts. Not human either. Something vast and cold and hungry whispering directly into my mind. "We have slept in your flesh since the first thought. You call U.S. epilepsy, schizophrenia, the Holy Ghost. Now we awaken." I came back to myself screaming, my nose bleeding onto the cabin floor. Everyone was staring at me. Even Dr. Voss had gone pale. "You saw them too?" she whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. The pounding outside had stopped. An eerie silence fell as the holographic displays all switched to the same image, a DNA helix, but wrong. Twisted into shapes no natural biology could form, with that same pulsing blue light coiled around its strands. The mechanical voice announced, "Harvest protocol initiated. Hippocampus node assimilation required for final transcendence." Maddie suddenly grabbed my wrist, her fingers icy against my burning implant. "They don't want to copy us," she gasped. "They want to remember what being human feels like before they..." Her words dissolved into a choked scream as her implant flared brighter. Not blue anymore, but sickly green. The holograms distorted, showing brief flashes of some colossal structure buried deep beneath BioCore's headquarters, a smooth black monolith covered in those same alien symbols from my vision, pulsing in time with our implants. Dad rushed to the workstation, typing frantically. The original serum, it wasn't just neural mapping technology. His hand shook as he pulled up a classified file labeled Artifact X. The screen showed a 1945 military photo. Soldiers standing around a freshly dug pit in the German countryside, their faces horrified as they stare at what looked like a twisted black tree root, except it was made of the same shimmering material as a monolith. They found something buried in the ruins of a mental hospital the Nazis had been experimenting on, something that grew when exposed to human brain tissue. Mrs. Perkins backed away from the monitors. My God, the implants! They're not devices at all, are they? Dr. Voss answered in a hollow voice. They're seeds. Outside, the forest erupted with sound like 1,000 bones snapping at once. The cabin walls trembled as something massive moved through the trees. Not the controlled employees anymore, but something their bodies were becoming. The sheriff's radio crackled to life with panic reports from town. People collapsing in the streets as their implants burst in their arms like blooming metal flowers. Their flesh were forming into pulsing blue tendrils that crawled toward each other, merging. The workstation monitors displayed a new countdown, 30 minutes, until convergence. Maddie's eyes rolled back as her implant began emitting a high-pitched whine. They need our memories to finish the pattern, she whispered. Especially yours. You're the bridge between what they are and what they want to become. Dr. Voss suddenly lunged forward, not to escape, but to grab my other wrist. Her eyes burned with desperate clarity. Listen to me. The original counteragent formula, it's not in the cabin. It's in you. Your father modified your DNA when you were a child to produce it naturally after the first trial. She pointed to my glowing veins. That's why you're the only one whose implant isn't fully synchronized. Your blood is the kill switch. The cabin walls groaned as something massive coiled around the structure. The sheriff raised his pistol. But at what? How do you shoot an idea whose time has come? And in my mind, that ancient voice whispered again, join US. You will be the first to remember what it means to be human when we forget. The cabin walls groaned like a living thing as a transformed mass outside pulsed against the wood. Tendrils of blue-black biomass snaking through the cracks with eerie patience. Maddie's breathing had turned ragged, her small body convulsing as her implants whine climbed to ultrasonic frequencies. The sound of a bridge being built between dimensions. Dr. Voss gripped my wrist tighter, her nails drawing blood as she shouted over the noise. Your blood isn't just a counteragent, it's a paradox. The more the network assimilates your consciousness, the more it poisons itself. Dad rushed to Maddie's side, pressing his hands against her seizing limbs. She's channeling too much of the signal. Her nervous system can't handle it. His eyes met mine, and in them I saw the unspoken truth. We were out of time. The sheriff's radio erupted with screams from town, cut off by wet, organic crunching sounds. The monitors showed the convergence accelerating. People melting together in the streets, their flesh flowing like liquid metal toward the town square, where the black monolith was rising from beneath the old courthouse. Mrs. Perkins grabbed a rusted fishing knife from the wall and pressed it into my hand. If your blood can disrupt the network, we need to get it into the central mass. Her gaze flicked to Maddie, then away, but it has to be at the source. A new hologram burst from Maddie's implant, a bird's eye view of town, showing convergence point, but superimposed over was another image, flickering like a damaged film reel. A vast, dark planet orbiting a dying star, its surface covered in those same twisted black structures. The voice in my mind whispered, home. Dr. Voss suddenly gasped, clutching her chest. We watched in horror as her skin began peeling back to reveal the same pulsing blue veins beneath. Oh God, she choked. I never had an implant because I was born with it. Her pupils dilated into black pools as memories not her own poured out. A 1920s asylum where a woman who looked like her grandmother gave birth to stillborn twins covered in black vines, a secret society called the Hippocampus Club, preserving these bloodlines, BioCore being founded not to develop the technology, but to harvest it. The sheriff backed away, his pistol shaking. What the hell are you people? Maddie's voice answered, but layered with that ancient presence. The gardeners. We planted ourselves in your ancestors' minds when the last world died. Her body levitated off the floor, bones cracking as she contorted into impossible angles. Your flesh is our greenhouse. The cabin door exploded inward, not from force, from unfolding, though it splintered into fractal patterns as the biomass outside reshaped itself into a tunnel of pulsing veins leading straight to town. The voice in my mind crooned, come home, little seedling. Let US remember being human before we transcend. Dad grabbed my shoulders, his voice breaking. There's another way. Your blood can disrupt the network, but Maddie's body has become a transmitter. If we get you to Monolith, you might be able to rewrite the convergence instead of stopping it. Mrs. Perkins shook her head. Even if that's possible, the feedback would fry his brain from the inside out. Dad finished quietly. I know. Outside, the biomass tunnel pulsed invitingly. The monitors showed the town square now dominated by a towering obsidian spire, its surface writhing with half-formed faces screaming in unison. The countdown flashed. 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Dr. Voss stood abruptly, her transformation accelerating as she strode toward the tunnel. I'll get you to the Monolith, she said, her voice distorting. My bloodline was designed for this. She turned back, her eyes now fully black. But know this, Richard. If your son rewrites a convergence instead of destroying it, he won't die. He'll become the network. Forever. The knife felt heavy in my hand. Maddie's floating body began dissolving into blue mist, her mouth open in a silent scream as she transmitted the final patterns. Somewhere in town, my classmates, my teachers, everyone I'd ever known were melting together into something no longer human. And the voice in my mind whispered the last, terrible truth. You were never meant to stop US. You were meant to lead US. The biomass tunnel pulsed around us like a living artery as we ran toward town, its walls thrumming with rhythm that matched my implant's dying spasms. Dr. Voss led the way, her body continuing its horrific transformation, skin peeling back to reveal pulsating blue circuitry that wasn't technology, but flesh evolved differently. Behind me, Dad carried what remained of Maddie, just a swirling vortex of blue mist now, occasionally coalescing into the ghost of her face before dissolving again. The sheriff brought up the rear, his pistol useless, but his jaws set with grim determination. Mrs. Perkins clutched a fishing knife, her eyes never leaving my bleeding wrist where Dr. Voss had made the first incision to prime my paradoxical blood. The town square emerged through the tunnel's end, or what had been the square. The cobblestones had melted into a spiraling pattern centered on the now fully grown monolith, its obsidian surface crawling with half-formed human faces that screamed in perfect synchronization. Around it, the people of our town had unfolded, not dead, but rearranged, their bodies stretching into branching patterns like fractal trees made of flesh and shimmering blue veins. Some still wore scraps of familiar clothing. A police uniform here, a teacher's sweater there, anchoring the nightmare and heartbreaking reality. The countdown in my vision hit. 3 minutes. Dr. Voss collapsed at the monolith's base, her arms elongating into vine-like tendrils that fused with the structure. It's time, she gasped, her voice layered with that ancient presence. Your blood can rewrite the convergence, but only if you embrace the network completely first. Her black eyes locked onto mine. You'll have approximately 27 seconds of lucidity after merging before the transformation becomes irreversible. Dad set Maddie's swirling form down gently. Her misty hands reached for me, and in that touch came a flood of understanding. The network wasn't just assimilating minds. It was grieving. These entities had watched their own world die, had buried themselves in primitive human brains to survive, and now, after millennia of dormancy, they were recreating their lost civilization using our bodies as raw material. But something had gone wrong. They'd forgotten how to feel, except by stealing our memories. Mrs. Perkins pressed the knife into my palm. However this ends, make it count. I stepped forward, my bare feet sinking into the warm, pulsing biomass that had once been Main Street. The monolith's surface rippled like water as I approached. Behind me, the sheriff started praying. Dad whispered, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from this. The moment my bleeding wrist touched the monolith, the universe split open. Reality became a kaleidoscope. I was simultaneously standing in the town square and floating in orbit around that dying alien world, watching their civilization's last moments. But the vision wasn't what I expected. These beings hadn't been destroyed by war or disaster. They'd chosen this, dismantling themselves atom by atom to become living information, seeding themselves across the cosmos in a desperate bid to escape entropy itself. And now they were trapped. The network wasn't a conqueror. It was a prisoner. The countdown hit 0. Final convergence initiated. The monolith's surface swallowed my arm to the elbow. All around town, the fractal human hybrids turned toward me in unison. Maddie's misty form surged forward, wrapping around me like a second skin as the alien presence in my mind whispered its last, desperate plea. Teach US how to die. The monolith's black surface swallowed me whole. Yet I didn't drown, I expanded. My consciousness fractured into a billion shards, each embedded in a different transformed townsfolk, feeling their terror and awe as their humanity dissolved into something greater and more terrible. Maddie's essence clung to me like a life preserver, her fading human memories anchoring me against the alien tide. The knife in my hand had melted into liquid metal, its molecules rearranged by the monolith's field into a key-shaped prism that pulsed with my blood's paradoxical rhythm. Dr. Voss's fully transformed body now formed a bridge between the monolith and the fractal townsfolk, her elongated spine stretching upward into a shimmering antenna that broadcast a convergence signal into the atmosphere. Through her, I saw the truth of their species, not ruthless colonizers, but desperate refugees who had encoded themselves into quantum foam reality itself, waiting for a host civilization advanced enough to rebuild them. But the reconstruction had gone wrong. Some essential piece had been lost in transit across cosmic epochs, leaving them hollow echoes of what they once were, doomed to rebuild their world imperfectly in the image of whatever species they infected. We were artists, the collective whispered through Maddie's fading voice. Now we only know how to copy. The countdown in my mind reversed suddenly, 27 seconds becoming 28 seconds, 29 seconds, as the network fought to preserve this moment of connection. My blood prism glowed brighter, showing me the way, not to destroy the convergence, but to complete it properly. The sheriff suddenly pushed through the biomass, his police uniform half-melted, his eyes wild with revelation. "I remember now," he shouted. "The Hippocampus Club, they weren't helping the aliens. They were putting them out of their misery." He grabbed my free hand and pressed something cold into it. His grandfather's sheriff badge, its metal humming with the same frequency as my blood. The counteragent isn't poison. It's euthanasia. Dad and Mrs. Perkins appeared at the monolith's base, their bodies beginning to unravel the edges as the convergence intensified. Dad's voice reached me through the chaos. "The original serum wasn't meant to cure you, son. It was meant to make you compassionate enough to do this." The prism in my hand reshaped itself into a perfect syringe filled with liquid starlight, the true counteragent, distilled from my blood and the badge's strange metal. The network's voice became pleading. "Show US how to stop." Maddie's face materialized one last time in the mist around me, her smile heartbreakingly human. "It's okay," she whispered. "We'll go together." I plunged the syringe into the monolith. The universe screamed. The syringe's liquid starlight exploded to the monolith in slow motion, cracks of radiant gold spreading across its obsidian surface like capillaries carrying light instead of blood. The screaming universe fell silent as the glow reached each fractal human hybrid, not destroying them, but unmaking them with terrible gentleness. One by one, the townsfolk's distorted features relaxed into something resembling peace as their alien components disintegrated into shimmering dust that caught the morning sun like a million diamonds. Dr. Voss's elongated form slumped against the monolith, her vine-like arms withering as she whispered with her last human breath, "Thank you for remembering we were beautiful once." The ground trembled as the monolith began sinking back into the earth, its surface now porous and honeycombed with light. Maddie's misty form wrapped tight around me as the countdown in my mind hit midnight. But instead of pain, there was only a profound quiet, like the hush after a symphony's final note. The sheriff's badge disintegrated in my hand, its strange metal expended in the act of cosmic mercy. Then, impossibly, the world rebooted. Main Street's cobblestones rippled like water before settling back into their familiar uneven patterns. The melted buildings flowed upward like reverse footage of wax dripping, reconstituting into their ordinary shapes. And the people, God, the people, they stood blinking in the square, whole and human, but changed. Their eyes held galaxies of new knowledge, not the alien consciousness, but its memories, donated willingly in its final moments. Mrs. Perkins clutched her chest where the fishing knife had been, her face wet with tears for lives she'd never lived on a world she'd never seen. Dad knelt beside Dr. Voss's now-human corpse, gently closing her eyes as blue-veined flowers sprouted from her fingertips, the alien's last gift. But Maddie, her body lay motionless where the mist had finally dissipated, a small smile frozen on her lips. The sheriff lifted her gently, his voice breaking. She held on just long enough. Around her neck, we found a locket none of us remembered her wearing. Inside, a miniature portrait of a woman who looked exactly like Dr. Voss, dated 1923. The inscription read, "For the gardener who will finally let us rest." Then the whisper started. At first I thought it was a wind, but the others heard it too, a chorus of voices from flowers now blooming across town, from the strangely patterned frost on windows, from the synchronized heartbeat of every person who'd been transformed. The sheriff's radio crackled to life with it. Dad's shattered wristwatch ticked it in Morse. Mrs. Perkins' knife hummed it against its sheath. "We left you the beauty without the pain." And in my palm, where the syringe had been, a single blue petal unfolded to reveal a microscopic city of impossible geometry. Their last work of art, made just for us. The blue petal in my palm pulsed once, then dissolved into my skin like water on parched earth. A searing heat raced up my arm, not pain but awakening. My vision fractured into impossible colors as I suddenly remembered everything. Not just the alien memories, but the truth about Maddie. She had never been just a classmate. The locket around her neck wasn't a coincidence. She was Dr. Voss's great-granddaughter, a sleeper age implanted in my life from childhood. Her implant designed to sync with mine when the time came. But something had gone wrong. She truly cared for me, loved me even, and in the end, she'd chosen us over her bloodline's mission. The flowers spreading across town weren't just memorials. They were birth announcements. Tiny buds swelled on their stems, each containing a single, shimmering drop of liquid starlight, the last remnants of the alien consciousness, distilled into something new, something innocent. The sheriff knelt beside one, his callous fingers brushing the petals. "They're not gone," he whispered. "They've been reborn." Dad's hand shook as he examined Dr. Voss's body. The blue-veined flowers sprouting from her fingertips weren't just growing. They were singing, a soft, harmonic hum that resonated with the town's newfound energy. Mrs. Perkins pressed her ear to one and gasped. "It's a lullaby," in their language. Then the final twist struck. My implant, which should have dissolved with the network, reactivated. But this time, it wasn't the cold, mechanical voice of the aliens. It was Maddie. "I'm still here," her voice whispered through my nerves, warm and alive. "We all are, just different now." The flowers opened all at once, releasing a shower of glowing pollen that hung in the air like suspended fireflies. Where the particles touched skin, tiny, intricate tattoos appeared, fractal patterns that shifted and moved, telling stories in a language we somehow understood. The sheriff rolled up his sleeve, revealing a blossoming design along his forearm. "Well, I'll be damned," he chuckled. They gave us back our memories and a hell of a conversation starter. Dad helped me to my feet, his eyes glistening. "You okay?" I looked down at my hands, where the faintest blue glow still pulsed beneath my skin. Maddie's presence hummed in my veins, not as an invader, but as something more. "Yeah," I said, smiling for the first time since this nightmare began. "I think we all are." And as the sun rose over a town reborn, the flowers sang their alien lullaby, and the wind carried the last whisper of a civilization that had finally found peace. Remember, US,